Alrighty then. It's time for another exciting episode of The Metallist. That would be me. All right, today we are going to talk about the records of Aerosmith. So I'm going decidedly American today, as most of my taste tends to be more European, not particularly English. But we're going to go with this one today. All right. So I have the 20th century albums ranked. I did this with Deep Purple recently. Check that out if you haven't seen it. Um, this doesn't really miss a whole lot of Aerosmith records. I couldn't remember at first if Just Push Play was um, this millennium or last. And turns out it did come out in 2001, so I guess it would be part of that. I do have that record. There's a few decent songs on there. Um, don't remember if I saw that tour. I'm thinking the last time I saw them play was 97. I saw them a couple times in 97. Um, so, but anyway, let's get rolling here. So there's going to be 12 records that came out during that time. And of course, they did have some gaps in the early 80s, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But let's go ahead and get going. Anyway, it's not working. Okay. Number 12, not surprisingly, is Rock and Hard Place. The little caricature thing here that I have, I thought was pretty cool. But this particular album does not feature Brad Whitford or Joe Perry. And honestly, the only song I remember right here was Lightning Strikes, which is a pretty good tune, coincidentally. Since I'm filming this today, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning as they're heading for the Stanley Cup for the third year in a row. Pretty cool. But that's really about the only song I remember from this. And the amusing part about it is there is a Stonehenge on the cover, which Spinal Tap came out right around that time as well. Legend has it that Steven Tyler went to see the movie and had to walk out because he couldn't take it. It was too lifelike. So that's how the story goes there. But yeah, this is a very, very dark time for the band. And after this, they took a few years off and kind of came back with the original lineup, and things certainly got better from there. All right, speaking of the original lineup, this was the last record by the original band for a while. 1979's Night in the Ruts. Really, the only song that stuck out on this one for me was No Surprise. And that particular tour, they were the headliners at a thing at Cleveland Stadium called the World Series of Rock. It was Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, Journey, Thin Lizzy, Scorpions, and AC/DC. You can believe that. That was an amazing time. A couple milestones from that show. First is that was the Scorpions' first show ever in America. And they started in front of 80,000 people at Cleveland Stadium. Pretty good start. And it was also the show where Aerosmith literally broke up after the show over spilt milk. It's true. If you read the Aerosmith biography, Walk This Way, after the Cleveland Stadium show, they were backstage. Alyssa Perry threw I guess they still had glass bottles of milk back then, a glass bottle of milk at Tom Hamilton's wife, and things just kind of went to hell from there, and Joe ended up leaving the band, and that was it for quite some time. So, little legendary tale for you there. Now, the following year, they came back, and it was like January 1980, so it was pretty early. And at that point, Jimmy Crespo had come in for Joe Perry. And to his credit, he played his ass off that night, and nobody cared because he wasn't Joe Perry. Okay. Also interesting was a couple days either before or after that show, there's a picture in the autobiography once again of Tyler laying on the stage in the middle of a convulsion, actually having a seizure on the stage. Whitford was still in the band because Brad is standing over top of him with his guitar looking at him like, what the hell, right? So, I mean, Steven was in really bad shape. And like I said, that was either a few days before, a few days after the show I had seen in Cleveland. So, rough times there. But let's move on. Okay, so this is the last of the 20th century albums. 1997's Nine Lives, as I mentioned before. I saw this tour twice. I saw it in the summertime, and then I saw it again, I think, in maybe December 97. And this is actually when I first started dating my soon-to-be wife. And we went to see Aerosmith that summer. Part of the reason we wanted to go was she was still is a big blues fan, and she liked a young kid. Well, he was a young kid at that point named Johnny Lang, and Johnny was opening the show. So hey, you want to go check out Aerosmith? And Johnny Lang is opening, so she said, yeah, cool. So we did that, and it was a pretty good show. But I will say that the show they did later on at the Gund Arena in Cleveland, like I said, probably December of that same year, was a much better show for some reason. I mean, they were just clicking that night. But some pretty good songs in here actually. The one single, "Falling in Love Is Hard on the Knees," was pretty good, kind of catchy. I kind of liked it. A couple of the good songs in there. There was a song called "Hole in My Soul" that I liked a lot. "Taste of India" was really cool, which you kind of get the Indian vibe with the cover here. There is a different cover for this album as well. I don't know what the issue was with this particular cover, but they did change it. It had more of just a cat, and it looked like it was on some kind of like Wheel of Fortune spinning wheel kind of thing, if I remember correctly. Um, but anyway, yeah, pretty solid album. You know, I don't have any major issues with it. I don't really have any major issues with any Aerosmith albums. Even Just Push Play had a couple decent things. After that, I don't really know what they did. I know they did that Bobo album, which I think was a bunch of blues covers, which is probably pretty decent. Never heard it. And I think there was one other after that, but that's about all I know. I did see a documentary recently of Steven Tyler doing a solo thing where he's been hanging out in Nashville and worked with some of those guys, and he called it a country album, but it sounded a lot like some Aerosmith stuff anyway. But cool documentary. It's worth watching. I don't remember the actual title of it, but check it out. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. All right, so let's move on. At number 9, the sort of comeback album, Done with Mirrors. And yes, it is backwards. That's how it was originally anyway. I think they did reissue it at some point where the lettering was in the correct order, but you don't want that. You want the original stuff, right? So this was the return of Perry and Whitford, and quite a bit of hoopla at the time, but didn't quite live up. I mean, there's some good stuff on here, but it wasn't the. I don't think it was the big slam dunk that they were hoping for. Let's see what's out there. Well, they do Let the Music Do the Talking, which was actually a Joe Perry project song. And Joe Perry had released 3 albums during that time. I did see him at the Cleveland Agora on his own. I mean, decent stuff. You know, no major complaints. But you know, Tyler needs Perry, and Perry needs Tyler. Let's face it. So, so that's on there. What else is on there? Oh, My Fist Your Face. That's a fun one. I kind of like that one. The reason a dog has so many friends is he wags his tail instead of his tongue, which is a great line. So I think I remember that song mostly for that. But beyond that, you know, it was hit or miss, I think, at that point. But you know, it was nice to have them back together. It was a good tour. They call it the Back of the Saddle tour. So it was kind of fun to see them back together after 5-6 years of being apart. So that was very cool. All right, moving on. All right, going to 1987. This was the real comeback album for them in terms of commerciality. Commerciality? Is that a word? Okay. Um, Permanent Vacation. Right. So the hits. Dude Looks Like a Lady. Yeah, okay. What else is a hit? Ragdoll. Yeah. Angel. That's a waste of 4 minutes. I'm sorry, but that's just me. But however, there is some good things, and there's some really good things. A couple of really good things, and some of the deep cuts are excellent. Uh, Love St. John, very cool song. Check that one out if you haven't heard it. And then Hangman Jury is just a crown jewel. Beautiful song, great song. Also, if you're interested, there Aerosmith did around I think 1990 did an MTV Unplugged, and if you can find that, you might want to check that out because they do a cool version of Hangman Jury on there. So definitely check that one out. It's pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and keep going. Number 7, we got Pump. So another pretty big album commercially. This came out in 1989, and what was on that? What was the hits in that? No, "Love in an Elevator," another silly song, but made him some money. Janie's Got a Gun. Not a huge fan of that one. I kind of like the beginning of it before it really kind of gets going. I kind of like the vibe of that, and I understand the message behind it, and I understand Tyler has an organization that helps children in need for various types of abuse. So that's very cool. So I mean, you can't fault it for that. And what it takes, that was sort of kind of what Tyler's doing now, a little countrified, but pretty good song. No complaints there. Um, but for me, the reason this album even ranks above Permanent Vacation, and quite frankly, Permanent Vacation, this one and the next one, you could probably flip flop these at any time, and I'd be like, okay. So just depending on what day you talk to me, the order of these could flip pretty easily. Um, the album opens with what I think may be the last truly great Aerosmith songs. And that would be Young Lust and Fine. Just great stuff. I mean, Fine just has so much swag, and it's a great song. I mean, and, Young Lust is just a good heavy rocker, and yeah, good stuff. So that's why I probably would rank that album here. Now, the next one I rank above just because I think it has a little more content to it. But again, like I said, I could flip these at any time. Next up, we got Get a Grip from 1993. Now, this one had some big time hits. What was on this one? Crying, Crazy, Amazing, which to me is like three takes of the same song. What do I know? But those are all big hits. Now, Living on the Edge, I did like. I still like. I think that's a pretty cool song. But again, like I said, a lot of big hits on this one for him, which is very cool. But then some of the deep cuts, yeah, pretty rocking. Eat the Rich, Get a Grip. Those are both really good songs. Um, and it's goofy, but I like Shut Up and Dance. I'm sorry. So that's a pretty good song too. All right. So next up, we finally get into the heroin infused cream of the band, if you will. This is the debut. Now, you've probably seen the debut album with featuring Dream On it. Now, that's a reissue that came out a few years later after they got popular with some of their other albums. So Dream On is on this album. Personally, never a big hit, but you got to give it the props for what it is. Like I said, was never really a huge fan of that. But there's a lot of other good stuff on this one too. Make It's on here, Mama Ken. Those are good songs. Oh, geez, what else do you think? Their version of Walking the Dog is pretty awesome. And of course, Dream On. So this was the first album. My cover does look like this. A lot of people, like I said, did get the one say featuring Dream On. Plus, the little picture here is bigger on the reissue. And I think it was probably 74. This album was definitely out. I don't know if the follow-up was out yet, but my older cousin says to me, he says, "Hey man," he knew I was into music and stuff, even though I was pretty young. He's like, "Hey man," he says, "There's some band from Boston playing over at Firestone High School. They got a record out. They're supposed to be pretty high. Do you want to go check it out?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll go check anything out." Right? And turns out that this was Aerosmith at a high school gym. So sometimes you never know. Go to those local shows. You never know when you might catch on to something. So that was pretty cool. All right, so let's move on into the top echelon here. All right, from 77, Draw the Line. What kind of lines exactly? Interpret as you will. Okay, I give this album a little bit higher ranking just because I think side one of this album for me is just perfect. I mean, just the way it flows. I mean, it's like it's over before you even know what happens. I mean, you got the title track, Draw the Line. I Want to Know Why, Critical Mass, Get It Up, and Bright Light Fright, which is a Joe Perry vocal. But yeah, that first side is just blazing to me. I just really love the first side of this record. And then, of course, it does have Kings and Queens. I mean, come on, can't go wrong with that song. Probably top five Aerosmith tunes for me, Kings and Queens. The rest of the album, it trails off a little bit, but still very, very solid and worthy of your time, to say the least. All right, here we go. Now, these top three, again, you catch me on a different day. I mean, I was thinking about before I started doing this, like, oh man, I wonder if I should switch these guys. But I left them as they are. Fight it out as you will. The three we got from 1974, we got Get Your Wings. And this was the one I was really thinking, you might want to put that one higher because, man, There's some great stuff on here. Same Old Song and Dance, Lord of the Thighs. Geez, what else is on here? Spaced is a cool song, kind of a deep cut that's really cool. SOS Too Bad. That one's pretty awesome. Love that one too. Of course, Train Kept a Rolling. And Seasons of Wither, which was one they started adding back into the set in later years, which was very cool. I mean, the first time they played it, I think I remember them playing it for the first time in a long time. May have been one of those shows I saw in '97. I'm like, oh, I can't believe they're doing Seasons. That's awesome. So let's see what else is on there. Anything else? Oh, Pandora's Box. That's a good one. That's kind of a fun little song. So yeah, I mean, just classic stuff all the way through. So like I say, these last three, flip them around. You say, no, that album's better than this one. I'd be like, yeah, okay. I'm cool with that. All right. So coming in at number 2, Rocks from 1976. Another one with a perfect first side, in my opinion. I mean, you've got Back in the Saddle, Last Child, Rats in the Cellar, which is one of my freaking favorites, and Combination. Beautiful. Just great. Really, really like it a lot. Then, we also have Sick as a Dog, Nobody's Fault, Lick of Promise, Home Tonight. Did I name them all? I think I might have missed one. I don't know. But again, just amazing record, super solid record. And of course, I think everybody's figured out what the top one is. And the reason for that, I will get into here shortly. 1975, Toys in the Attic. Okay, so first things first, it does have Walk This Way on it. Honestly, I never need to hear it again. Don't dislike the song. It's just like, no, I'm good. I mean, it's a great riff. Everybody knows it. So very cool. Now, Sweet Emotion's a different story. I can still hang with that one to this day. It's a really cool bass line to it, and just great groove, great swag. Yeah, so that song's still, even though I've heard it, a bazillion times, that song is still up there. But it's really the meat of this album, the deeper cuts that are just phenomenal. I mean, Toys in the Attic itself, the song itself is just great. I mean, all time for sure. And Uncle Salty and Adam's Frickin' Apple. Oh, love that one. That one is so good. Love Adam's Apple. And then probably the crown jewel of Aerosmith for me personally is No More, No More. Just probably my favorite Aerosmith song of all time, which is probably why I gave this one the nod for the top spot. All right, so would love to hear what you think about all this stuff. So let me know in the comments, would like that there. And once again, I want to thank you for watching. And again, please like, comment, and of course, subscribe. And we will see you all next time.